Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello and welcome to Marketing Management, a VUCA perspective. We are discussing core concepts, and I am your friend and tour guide on this amazing, exhilarating, and very knowledge-wise rich journey, Siddhi Bhattacharyya. Now we are getting into the meat of the sandwich. Now we are getting into that particular space where we start seeing the implementation of all that we've learned in direct models and frameworks as we go ahead. So from here on, we'll look at all the stuff we've studied and see how they apply in the actual world. But before we begin, a word from Peter Drucker. He is obviously somebody who doesn't need any introduction in the world of marketing. He's as big as they come when it comes to the entire scene on marketing, and he has said the most important thing in communication is to hear what isn't being said. So communication is where we are at, and in the marketing space, communication holds the soul of the entire marketing exercise, as we've spoken of before. Let's get into why segmenting is important, because we've learned segmenting, targeting, positioning. So let's understand why segmenting is important to ensure that the message gets the right kind of audience targeting. So in order to ensure that messaging is proper and reaches the right audience in a proper and conducive way, audience segmentation is used, and that is where we are headed at when we start this series, target audience definition and crafting the communication message, of which this is the first. Now, when we are mastering segmentation, targeting and positioning, we need to apply all of these within the marketing framework, and here we are looking at a very hyper competitive marketplace in today's day and age, and so therefore connecting with the right audience through precision messaging is critical for marketing excellence. So this is precisely where the things that we've learned in the past, segmentation, targeting and positioning, the STP framework, this which was originated by Philip Kotler, is what comes to our help. And here we are able to manage the emerging dynamics of consumer cohorts and tribes. We'll get into the subject of what cohorts and tribes really mean, and we'll be able to fuel the sustainable brand loyalty as we go along. Now here, we need to ensure that we move beyond just generic mass approaches, because scattering your communications and messaging at everybody and hoping something will stick is a wasteful exercise. And so therefore, tailored customer-centric strategies are what good marketing is all about, and that genuinely resonates with the specific audiences that we have in mind. So through compelling case studies and implementable techniques, we'll actually look at identifying, analyzing and engaging the most valuable consumer segments and drive meaningful brand connections and maximizing the ROI of the marketing campaigns. Now, when we are looking at STP, a quick blowback to where we were. Segmentation is the first step. It divides the heterogeneous markets into defined groups with similar needs and characteristics. Targeting helps us evaluate segment attractiveness, see which one is working best for us, and selecting the high potential markets which we want to pursue. And then finally, you've got positioning, which crafts a compelling brand identity and occupies a distinctive place in their minds. At the end of the day, remember, brands are built in consumers' minds. So this is typically the entire progress path for communications, and that is precisely where we have taken the entire long route to understand all these aspects and come to this point. And this helps us maximize the marketing efficiency, resulting in superior conversion rates and measurable ROI improvement. That is the core, because at the end of the day, marketing is spending money, so that money better be made to count. Now, let's start with segmentation. You can do a variety of segmentation exercises. You can split it into demographics, where you can put in certain understanding points like age, gender, income, education, occupation. And if you're going for luxury tech brands, then you can look at high earning professionals aged 25 to 40. That gives you a general idea of who they are. Then you've got geographic segmentation. So you can shift by location, region, urban or rural settings and climate zones as well. And you enable the retailers to customize offerings and meet specific metropolitan areas or seasonal needs, whichever the case might be. Then you've got psychographic segmentation, where you look at various things like lifestyle, values, interests and personality traits, and all of these factors actually look at understanding what makes that person think and what makes their minds tick and what makes them respond to certain messages. And you allow brands like Patagonia, we've discussed Patagonia, which is very inclusive and has looked at keeping its entire marketing campaign very sensitive towards preservation and sustainability. So therefore, if you connect with environmentally conscious outdoor enthusiasts, and that is a very specific mindset that you're trying to reach out to. Similarly, you've got behavioral segmentation, where you can classify your audiences based on what they're buying, when they're buying, the kind of loyalty that they showcase to the brand, then how frequently are they buying stuff, and you help subscribe to various services like retention strategies for different customer life cycle stages. Now, as a first critical step in the STP framework, effective segmentation enables organizations to allocate marketing resources very efficiently, and it allows for value propositions and resonant messaging, which really manages to reach out and tingle the mind of the end consumer and address specific pain points and desires of each target audience, and that is precisely where the entire exercise is aimed towards. So, as a case study, let's look at Coca-Cola segmentation strategy. Now, in terms of Coca-Cola implements a sophisticated market segmentation strategy and has a diverse product portfolio to connect with distinct consumer groups while maintaining brand cohesion worldwide. Now, in terms of demographic segmentation, Coke targets health conscious adults concerned about caloric intake, while Coke Zero, and so Diet Coke has a specific audience. Coke Zero positions itself for young male consumers seeking sugar-free options and authentic cola taste profiles. In terms of the psychographic segmentation, you'll see the brand cultivates powerful emotional connections through aspirational lifestyle messaging, that you will have Coke and your lifestyle will be at a certain stage and level, and skillfully associates its product with universal human values like joy, community connection and the meaningful shared experiences that we all have. In terms of geographic segmentation, it respects the cultural nuances. Coca-Cola develops and acquires region-specific brands like Thumbs Up in India and Inca Cola in Peru, and it demonstrates deep local market understanding while preserving global brand consistency. So, that is how Coke actually espouses a certain globalized but yet localized feel to its entire offering, and that is how it looks at various segments within its larger portfolio. This multi-dimensional segmentation strategy has empowered Coke to maintain its dominant position in the global beverage industry for decades, ensuring market initiatives resonate authentically, because each of these markets responds in a very certain and very typical of its own way. So therefore, diverse consumer segments across varied markets and cultural contexts are all reached out to, and you appeal to each in a very individualistic way. Now here you will see that the next stage, targeting, selects your most valuable segments out of the entire mix and addresses them first. Everything else percolates from there. So mass marketing used to have broad undifferentiated approach which delivered one universal message: you get it or you don't, and it would spread it across the entire market in a scatterfire format. For example, toothpaste promoting cavity protection for all consumers is what a direct, blanket communication from a toothpaste brand would be. However, segmentation marketing tailors the messaging for distinct customer groups. For example, if you've got luxury brands, then they craft separate appeals for millennials versus established professionals because the mindsets differ. Again, when you're marketing to a very, very small segment, you've got a niche which you're reaching out to, you have to have laser focused strategy, serving specialized, well-defined segments, and you have precise offerings. For example, premium organic skincare products look for environmentally conscious luxury consumers. So they have to be both of these aspects. Then you've got micro marketing, which is going absolutely very, very narrow. Here you've got highly personalized communications crafted for individual customers based on specific behaviors and preferences. For example, AI driven product recommendations which reflect recent browsing history. And this is something which Amazon, etc., do in a very, very significant way. So this when you look at effective targeting, it actually strategically evaluates and selects segments for their optimal value alignment with the brand. And this is a crucial decision which determines how to allocate limited marketing resources and maximize the impact and get you the competitive advantage and ROI which you so sorely are looking for. The evolution from mass marketing towards increasingly personalized approaches enables businesses to precisely address specific customer pain points and desires. So these are the aspects which each particular targeted marketing exercise will accomplish. And targeted precision not only enhances the conversion rates and customer satisfaction, but fosters deeper brand loyalty because it gets to the consumer's mindset directly and gives you more efficient marketing spends overall. In the case of Nike, it is targeting excellence, and excellence is something which athletes display. So hence Nike takes on athletes as the center stage, but it is meant for everybody else as well. So it looks at various audience segments. So you've got athletes and sports enthusiasts at one end of the spectrum. Here it captivates serious athletes through strategic elite endorsements, showcases cutting edge performance technology and competitive advantage that resonates with dedicated sports participants. Then you've got casual wear customers who wear the Nike sportswear collection, and the brand attracts lifestyle consumers with premium fashion collaborations, distinct streetwear aesthetics, and messaging that emphasizes both style and comfort for everyday activities. For the women's market, which is again now a micro market. So casual wear, if it were a niche, women's market is actually a micro market here. And here you will look for revolutionary campaigns like Better For It, which is a messaging which directly addresses women's unique fitness journeys, because women have to look for a lot of proper attire when it comes to their fitness training, etc. And it also celebrates diverse body types and emphasizes personal empowerment rather than competitive performance, because here it is all about being comfortable when you train. So that is the way this is structured. Now Nike's sophisticated targeting strategy allows the brand to maintain authentic connections, because each individual and each particular segment is therefore finds it relatable to connect with the brand, and you've got diverse consumer segments you're applying to at the same point in time, but you're preserving the brand's distinctive identity, and that is key to ensure that everybody gets the exact same slice of pie when it comes to the brand's identity. Yes, each audience is met with, each audience's specific nuances are understood, and the marketing appeals to those particular nuances at a very, very unitary level. And this multifaceted approach not only maximizes market penetration, but ensures each message deeply resonates. So why is it important for a message to resonate? Because that is only when the consumer feels that they've been heard, their views, their opinions, their needs, their desires are going to be met. So that is precisely where brands who are capable do this. Now, when it comes to positioning, how do you position yourself? You create your unique place in consumers' minds. this is critically important, this part, the consumer's minds bit, because that is where you have to place the brand as such. Now, when you look at value based positioning, you emphasize exceptional value through affordability, cost effectiveness, or superior price to quality ratio. For example, unbeatable quality at the lowest price. The examples here would be Walmart, IKEA, Southwest Airlines. When we look at quality based positioning, you will look at market presence through superior craftsmanship, exceptional materials, exclusive status, and it will also have various other things like history, legacy, and so forth. And here you will showcase uncompromising luxury that you can trust. Here examples would be Rolex, Mercedes-Benz, Four Seasons. These are brands which can carry the quality based and showcasing the luxury aspect, but through the functional understanding of how it reaches that particular impeccable levels of quality. Then there is a problem solution positioning where you directly address specific consumer pain points. So, you take hair fall for example, and that becomes a pain point. Now, how do you create a response mechanism to that? The response mechanism is in the form of a shampoo with conditioner combo, which gives hair fall reduction, or in this case, the only shoes engineered for all day comfort in any environment if you are talking about Nike. Here, a lot of examples are there. Tylenol is there, Dropbox is there, Allstate is there, and so on and so forth. Again, you've got differentiation positioning where you completely set yourself apart from whatever else is there. So, here you create a competitive advantage through unique features, technologies, or approaches that competitors can easily replicate. For example, revolutionary AI driven camera technology. Now, here that is a completely new tech which not many other players are putting into the game. So, here examples like Tesla, Apple, Red Bull are brands which create a very, very unique differentiation for themselves, thereby earning them that particular space very clearly in consumers' minds. Now, let us look at one brand which has been able to hold its own when it comes to masterful market positioning, which is Apple. Now, Apple has throughout showcased innovation and leadership in its core. It is positioned as the pinnacle of technology innovation, consistently pioneering features that competitors later adopt as industry standards because they are the thought leaders. So, Apple clearly showcases that they are the thought leaders in the telephony space. So, with that, Apple keeps innovation as its core always up front and center, and that is what people then start to believe fully in. When we talk about a premium brand image, you see Apple has cultivated aspirational luxury as an identity through strategic pricing, clean, minimalistic, deep design language, and sophisticated marketing narratives. Then you've got privacy and security. Here, Apple establishes itself as the champion of user privacy in an era of data exploitation, and it can transform security features into powerful differentiators because no other brand is yet at the level where they are solving that particular problem to the extent with which Apple has entered the market. Again, here there is ecosystem integration. So, you create a harmonious device ecosystem where each product enhances the other, fostering deep customer loyalty and reducing switches which are going to give incentives. So, therefore, Apple has mastered the art of positioning by crafting a distinctive brand very, very clearly apart from any other competition and seamlessly blends innovation leadership, premium quality perception, and ecosystem advantages. This positioning permeates every touch point from product development and user interface to retail experiences and even marketing communications. This strategic positioning enables Apple to command significant price premiums because of the innovation that they bring to the table and the way the consumer perceives that particular input, and it still maintains extraordinary customer loyalty, especially in a fiercely competitive market. It is priced higher, it gives a lot of features, and it also charges that particular premium, which a lot of users will bow over and pay, but they will keep going on with Apple. And this occupying a clear, compelling position in consumers' minds, the Apple company has built formidable competitive barriers than competitors, and which they are struggling to overcome. Even with technical parity, they still can't move across the spectrum. Now, let's get into the aspect of consumer cohorts. So, we will get to understand why we move very specifically into the word cohort. There are traditional demographics which talk to you about right categorization based on age, gender, income and education that dominated early marketing strategies. From there, behavioral segmentation has come in, where advanced groupings based on purchase history, brand interactions and loyalty patterns reveal deeper consumer motivations. And then we finally arrive at consumer cohorts. Now, cohorts are extremely sophisticated groups, and these are united by shared formative experiences. They also share cultural touchpoints and collective values. So, they feel almost similar in nature, in their emotional texture, in the way their worldview is structured, etc. And this keeps evolving over time, but the fun part is that they evolve more or less in the same direction. So, each of these members is affected very similarly. And from there, we can also look at brand tribes. When we have passionate communities that form around shared brand affinity. So, shared brand affinity is they share that brand's closeness with them, they all feel very highly for that particular brand, and so therefore, they create powerful networks of advocacy and belonging, because they may need that kind of validation by becoming part of this particular community. And so therefore, marketing strategy has transformed dramatically from basic STP, which is segmentation, targeting and positioning, towards embracing the richness of human connection, which is typically how marketing has also moved from the past to what is happening today. So, in this case, when traditional approaches relied on superficial demographic data points, today's consumers, these cohorts have a methodology to capture the dynamic interplay between shared experiences, because when you had the traditional advertising and marketing, you were approaching a scatter fire kind of method, and then you got segmented groups from which you created cohorts. Now, the interplay between the members of the cohort is extremely important. They interact, they have a specific lingo with which they interact. There are cultural contexts that are common amongst them, and there are evolving values that truly drive consumer behavior, especially amongst them. Why is this important to the larger target audiences? Because the cohort, if they are seen as the most active, passionate members of the target group, what they create today becomes important for the other people in the target audience to also emulate, and that typically gives them the early adopter kind of scenario. This presents a fundamental shift from viewing consumers as static data points to understanding them as members of a fluid, interconnected community, because they are not just the referential numbers we get on research response data sheets. They are also people who actually interact. So, there is a much more deeper, richer connection between the members of the cohort. And by recognizing how external factors shape collective identities and purchasing decisions, brands can forge authentic connections that resonate on deeper emotional levels, and they can create lasting loyalty in an increasingly fragmented marketplace. Now, when you understand cohorts in master brand planning, you look at generational cohorts, which are distinct groups defined by birth era or unified by common historical events and cultural touchpoints. For example, we've heard of baby boomers, Gen X, millennials, Gen Z. Now you've got Gen Alpha and now even Gen Beta. So all of these are coming about as generations of consumers come by. Then you've got behavioral cohorts where consumers classified by specific interaction patterns and engagement frequency with brands, whether they are first time buyers, loyal customers, seasonal shoppers, etc. They each have a very specific way to operate and a way of reacting to whatever the brand has to speak. And then there are interest based cohorts where communities bonded through shared passions, specialized hobbies, or professional domains. For example, fitness enthusiasts, gaming communities, technology pioneers, etc. They are all parts of their own individual unique communities. And then you've got cultural cohorts here, collectives united by fundamental values, belief systems, and cultural influences that explained beyond traditional demographic boundaries and got them into the space of how they have a shared culture amongst themselves. So this cohort transcends the conventional market segments and emphasizes formative experiences because they may have had similar experiences in becoming members of the larger cohort. And there would be environmental factors at times which influence consumer behavior throughout their entire brand journey. They are not rigid demographic classifications. A cohort typically transforms in response to economic shifts and social and technological disruptions and evolving social norms. So their patterns also keep shifting. Cohorts, how do they drive master brand strategy? They give you the ability to precisely message by giving unique brand narratives and communication channels which require tailoring engagement strategies. The second part is strategic positioning. Now you've got rich cohort insights that enable brands to refine product offerings and sharpen value propositions for maximum relevance. And then you've got future focused analytics where you've got a systematic cohort behavior which is tracking and empowers the brands to anticipate preference shifts before competitors because you are constantly listening in to what the cohort is having as a discussion amongst themselves. So there are diverse product lines which can be introduced and sub brands can operate within a unified brand umbrella leading to a cohort audience. And cohort analysis becomes the linchpin of effective strategic planning. How different consumer groups interact with and perceive the master brand enables companies, and they are able to maintain a consistent brand identity while they are able to precisely calibrate their messages to each distinctive segment of the audience. Now again, let's look at Nike's master brand cohort strategy. The Gen Z athletes at one end, which we discussed, they captivate the sustainability messaging, including representation and digital first experiences that seamlessly blend local activism with aesthetic performance and environmental stewardship. Now the point is that the exact same thing can be replicated across geographies, across culture, etc. But the tenets staying the same, the reactions would be individual to each cohort subsegment. Then you've got urban sneakerheads. This is more underground in its approach. It cultivates passionate brand advocates through strategic limited edition releases, high profile designer collaborations, and carefully curated influencer partnerships that transform products into coveted cultural artifacts. And then the everyday fitness enthusiast is also covered, where they want to see something that is accessible. There is durable fitness essentials covered, and authentic campaigns are showcased featuring diverse, relatable individuals achieving meaningful personal experiences, and it has been at times reinforcing the athletic excellence that exists at every level. So, within the group also they are looking to promote the athletic people more. Now, moving from cohorts to tribes, how do you see the evolution of brand communities happen? So, when you talk about any particular aspect like formation basis, cohorts have demographic similarities and shared behaviors, whereas brand tribes, they have passionate connections and collective identity. So, both of these things will help you understand how formation of cohorts happens. In terms of the relationship with the brand, the cohort has a transactional and need based relationship, whereas brand tribes have deeply emotion and it is identity defining, in the sense how does a brand speak with their identity to the end consumer and how they respond therefore. So, both of these aspects are taken here. Communication style wise, there is strategic targeting and personalization of the messaging when we spoke with the cohort. For the brands, it is a collaborative dialogue and community engagement. If there are certain ones who drive loyalty, then for consumer cohorts, you have a value perception and you have functional benefits till it is getting executed. And on the brand tribes part, he will actually showcase a sense of belonging and a shared brand passion because they are coming in as part of that entire exercise. Some examples for consumer cohorts would be urban millennials, suburban parents, fitness enthusiasts, etc. When I speak with brand tribes, you will hear of Harley Davidson riders, then you will have Apple devotees, you will have Peloton communities and such like. There are various others of this variety when it comes to brand tribes. The consumer cohorts represent data driven segmentation such as demographics and behaviors. Brand tribes emerge from deeper emotional bonds with brands, and that is typically the one major difference. Tribes demonstrate significantly higher unwavering quality and powerful advocacy, and actively they champion the brand within their networks and integrate it into their personal identities. Now, what will be the characteristics of brand tribes? They will have a shared identity first and foremost. They will have members who deeply integrate with the brand and use it in their personal and social identity frameworks. There will be an emotional loyalty. These tribal members will forge connections that transcend mere transactions or product benefits. It gets more emotionally connected. Then you've got community influence, where authentic peer endorsements are looked at and organic advocacy fuels exponential engagement, whereas there is symbolic affiliation. So, you will see visual markers pop up, digital signals, sounds, etc., and there will be shared rituals. These strengthen the collective belonging of that tribe, and they champion the brand's philosophy, actively defend its reputation against critics, and seamlessly weave brand elements into their personal narrative and identity. So, what is the pathway to tribal formation? You have to have brand storytelling, because that is how people congregate around a central idea. And from brand storytelling, it also needs to be inspected to have cultural significance, at least at the immediate local level. And then you've got community engagement, which is a brand must do, and it looks at participating in opportunities that could connect consumers directly. For example, the Harley Davidson's vibrant hog community events. These are very, very specific tribal communities, and hence marketers can actually go and talk to them very, very specifically and meet similar minded people all across. The symbolic meaning is also derived in this particular, because there are iconic visual elements which are stuff that will remind you, that will trigger instant emotional recognition, and it will also give you something to identify the brand with. So, let us look at Apple's consumer tribe. They have a shared identity to begin with. They look at themselves as forward thinking creatives, innovators, and discerning consumers who prioritize elegant design and intuitive user experiences above everything else. Then you've got emotional quality and loyalty. Here you will see their seamless ecosystem creates functional dependence, and it is compelling brand narrative fosters an emotional connection to the extent that it transcends more product specifications. Then you've got community influence. Here you will see that Apple enthusiasts eagerly share their experiences. They provide support to fellow users and significantly impact purchasing decisions throughout their personal and their professional networks. And finally, the symbolic affiliation bit. Here the Apple logo has evolved into a powerful status symbol, with users proudly displaying their devices as badges of identity and cultural alignment. So Apple's masterful tribal strategy has generated an almost cult-like following, and it delivers substantial competitive advantages, remarkable price tolerance, and forgiveness during occasional product missteps as well. So there is a lot of leeway which consumers give Apple because the tribe they have formed is very, very solid. So when you look at marketing communications for cohorts and tribes, you look at creating personalization and relevance, which is the first and foremost important thing. You tailor make the experiences for these cohorts and tribes. There is a lot of storytelling and authenticity which is required. You cannot be talking about any and every possible scenario. Your storytelling has to center around the brand. It has to stay true to the code of the brand. Then there is a sense of community building. People support each other and they help each other in a time of requirement. Then there is advocacy and influence. Here you empower tribal members to become credible brand ambassadors within their networks and propagate the brand going forward. In terms of personalization and relevance, for cohorts, AI powered precision content recommendations will work better. For tribes, what will work as in contrary will be messaging aligned with core communal values. For cohorts, you will need sophisticated data analysis. For tribes, you will need deep cultural resonance and meaningful insider references, and so on and so forth, where you've got the messages to be specific and generational cultures to be dropped. On the other side, the community specific language and terminology are important for the tribes. They'll also drive deliberate acknowledgement of collective passions. Again, personalization epitomizes the sophisticated marriage of art and science in contemporary marketing. In the case of cohorts, it harnesses advanced data analytics to deliver precisely targeted content based on identifiable behavioral patterns and life stage needs. Tribes have it go deeper and strategically reinforce shared values and cultural touchpoints that resonate emotionally but also actively strengthen the bonds that foster genuine community loyalty. In terms of storytelling and authenticity approaches, for cohorts, you will find financial institutions, for example, captivating young professionals through investment narratives specifically crafted for early career milestones. So they are addressing them right at the outset of their career, giving them unique financial aspirations and anxieties with a relatable, actionable content. In tribal cohorts, you will see stories also abound because Red Bull masterfully cultivated brand loyalty through breathtaking extreme sports content They even sent somebody to the stratosphere and made them jump back to earth. So they have been doing all these stunts, and these have created enough and more PR. It also connects with the brand persona. In the case of authentic connections, brands like Dove revolutionize marketing through raw, unfiltered customer stories that boldly challenge conventional beauty standards, creating profound emotional resonance that transcends mere product benefits. How does all of this then work backwards towards creating a community and having user engagement? You create digital communities where interactive brand fora and discussion boards are continuous as a feature. You curate long social media groups, and strategic hashtag campaigns can be run on these. You incentivize user generated content initiatives and immerse virtual events and interactive live streams to keep the entire conversation lively. In terms of physical experiences, you have immersive brand sponsored events and themed meetups. When you're talking about experiential, you can have pop-up installations come up where and when you don't know, suddenly it will come in the mall or something, and then it will activate the sensory corners of that particular brand. Dedicated flagship stores will have community spaces which will give you the exclusive personalized feel within the store itself, and extra hand-on workshops and skill building classes will be organized for this particular setup. Now, there could be a hybrid engagement where there's seamless online to offline activation campaigns, and integrating digital achievements is very important with tangible rewards at the end. So, collaboratively speaking, the community challenges with meaningful shared goals, and there are tiered member recognition programs with exclusive benefits. For example, Peloton's dynamic leaderboards and achievement system showcase how it transforms individual workouts into community driven competitions and keeps people sparring against each other with friendly rivalry going on. When it comes to influencers and advocacy marketing, cohort also work as influencers, because there are micro and macro influencers who authentically embody and connect with specific demographic or behavioral cohorts. And when you have strategic partnerships, you deliver precision, targeted reach, and genuine relatability through content that directly addresses cohort specific pain points, aspirations, and lifestyle preferences. For example, food brands will collaborate with culinary influencers to engage millennial home cooks through interactive recipe content in their exact cooking proficiency and ingredient preferences area, and it will drive both engagement and purchase intent. So, all of these things are happening at the same time. In the case of tribal advocacy, you will cultivate and empower passionate brand advocates from within the existing community to fuel organic word of mouth momentum, and these authentic voices will have unparalleled credibility and influence within their tribes, and you'll create resonant content that reinforces shared values, strengthens brand tribal identity, and converts interest into long lasting loyalty in the longer run. So, when you do all of these things, presence becomes extremely important. So, hence having an omni-channel presence is necessary for maximizing the impact. So, for cohorts, you have to strategically deploy resources across channels and align with specific demographic consumption. For example, Gen Z via immersive TikTok experiences, and millennials via thought leadership on LinkedIn, because that is the life stage at which they are, and these are the particular social media platforms that they frequent the most. Similarly, in the case of tribal channel strategy, you will see that they need to create aspirational spaces and tiered access points that reinforce community status and belonging. For example, if you have premium member exclusive digital platforms and invitation only physical experiences, that becomes a rewarding experience for that particular audience. Adidas has a dual cohort tribe approach and they balance both. Cohort wise, they go for eco-conscious sneaker collections and highlight how they use recycled materials, carbon neutral manufacturing processes, etc. For urban millennials, they push boundaries with Yeezy and Prada and seamlessly integrate athletic performance with luxury aesthetics. For performance athletes, they do innovations marketed through targeted messaging and emphasize measurable performance benefits. For tribes, they have Adidas runners where they've got a vibrant global community connecting running enthusiasts. And events, digital challenges, and ambassador led training programs, these fuel the entire activities of the tribe. Then there is a sneakerhead culture. Here, strategically limited releases creating cultural moments that drive anticipation, premium resale value within collector communities, because at times certain pieces of footwear become collectors items, and that is why exchange of these and maybe even trade is something that is looked well upon. Then there are certain originals loyalists which within the tribe they showcase heritage inspired designs and celebrate the brand history. As a parallel, you have evolving streetwear trends for the contemporary elements, also building more inroads into the brand as such. So Adidas manages both sides of the cohort and tribe approach together. And so therefore, there are influencers and decision makers in the entire process as well. For each, there is a specific type of activity and what they are going to address. In the case of influencers, their role is to shape perceptions and opinions, whereas decision makers make the final purchase decision. The primary concern for influencers is trends or social validation, whereas decision makers look at price, quality, necessity. The influencers look at communication styles, whereas decision makers look at the more fact-based, rational aspects of things. Influencers look at examples which are related, so bloggers, celebrities, friends, they take inputs from there, whereas decision makers could be the CEOs of companies, parents in a family, procurement officers within an organization. And in terms of marketing goal, you will reach out to influencers by awareness and advocacy requirements, whereas decision makers you will create, drive conversions, and sales will actually be the need for the hour. So these are the ways you will interact with influencers and decision makers as well. The influences in the consumer cycle, they are social media personalities. These are content creators typically and shape consumer preferences and trends. There are industry experts who are authoritative professionals with opinions that carry substantial weight due to their credibility, specialized knowledge, and recognized expertise. There are media and critics members who are professional reviews and journalists and systematically evaluate products and shape broader public perception. And then there are families and friends. So here, trusted peer level confidants with authentic recommendations. All these aspects impact consumer purchasing decisions through personal connection. So there are decision makers in the entire consumer cycle. There are household purchasers who manage family budgets, prioritize household needs, and evaluate products based on longevity, value, and alignment with family values. There are business procurers who are corporate gatekeepers and use structured purchasing protocols, evaluate ROI, and make high value B2B decisions. Then there are individual consumers who are autonomous purchasers and balance personal desires with practical constraints, making their decisions due to lifestyle preferences, peer recommendations, and the perceived value of the product in their lives. And then there are committee decision makers where collaborative stakeholder groups employ consensus building approaches, balance diverse priorities, and share whatever the accountabilities for their significant purchases with long-term implications. Now, how does marketing communication work for influencers? You can introduce emotional storytelling because captivating narratives resonate emotionally and seamlessly integrate with the influencer's established personal brand identity. You've got social proof and engagement, which is something you'll get as a derivative. So here you've got highly shareable content and strategic collaborations with respected voice and getting meaningful conversations out of the entire thing, and experiential and exclusive access so that they can get priority product access, they can go to bespoke events and showcase customized interactions with the memorable share worthy experiences that they can curate. And content co-creation is finally the end goal because they strategically collaborate on messaging development and authentically connect with the influencer specific audience demographics. So the influencers therefore also have their own outer bound demographics they can appeal to. What is the marketing communications for decision makers here? They will have to have data driven messaging and compelling evidence and quantifiable benefits because it's more of a logical buy for them. Then you can give them comprehensive case studies here, in-depth white papers depending on which kind of buy it is, and precise ROI that analyzes and does competitive benchmarking. You can do strategic direct response where you get time sensitive offers, risk free trials and performance guarantees. And then you can do strategic relationship building where you have highly targeted personalized communication, consultative engagement, and that gives the specific challenges a listen, and you can value add by putting in loyalty initiatives and ongoing partnerships as well. So how do you create a cohesive dual audience strategy? You map the consumer journey. Here you identify critical touch points where influencers and decision makers intersect through the entire purchasing process. You align your messaging architecture by crafting complementary narratives, ensuring influencer targeted content reinforces and amplifies a decision maker's priorities. You create connected content paths so that seamless content journeys evolve from awareness, which is influencer focused, and consideration and commitment, which is decision maker focused. And implement cross audience measurement. Here you put in your analytics and quantify how influencer engagement directly translates to decision maker actions and conversions. So that is how you have a sophisticated marketing operation that orchestrates interconnected campaigns with influencer enthusiasm, naturally propelling the decision makers towards making a confident conversion. You can have a lot of success and you can look at various KPIs. Campaign alignment wise, 82% of organizations with consistent messaging across audience cohorts get approximately 82% higher conversion rates. Then 3.4 times is the engagement multiplier based when you have community based tribal marketing, and it creates greater engagement than conventional marketing tactics. When you've got decision influence, 65% buys happen in B2B purchase decisions directly shaped by peer recommendations and industry word of mouth, and 47% retention increase also happens when you see brands implementing robust community building strategies and getting 47% stronger customer retention rates. So in terms of future trends in audience centric marketing, you will see quickly AI powered hyper personalization because data is being compiled and it is being looked into the entire aspect, where machine learning is going to, with its algorithms, instantly adapt content based on real time behavioral signals as AI and the various ways human emotions can be read through visual and various other tactile responses. It can read human responses and emotion. It will start creating individually tailored experiences that evolve, and it will also keep learning whilst it is doing this. You will have immersive tribal experiences where revolutionary AR and VR technologies will come in. This is where your metaverse aspects will start coming in, and both these two factors will form that metaverse entry point for us. You will have privacy first targeting. So therefore, sophisticated segmentation frameworks will deliver personalized experiences while honoring that stringent privacy regulation, because this is becoming increasingly a pain point. And you will have blockchain community ownership, because of which you will have transformative decentralized ecosystems and community members will gain tangible ownership through tokens and non-fungible tokens, and shift from passive consumers to active stakeholders, because all these give you a chance to collaborate and monetize whatever you have created within the community. There are various implementation challenges like data integration, cross-team alignment, content scaling, measuring the complexity, budget allocation, and getting the top brass to buy in. But then you have the steps which can be created, data being the biggest. Management is lesser problematic if they are pretty much aligned to the particular way forward. So, through STP implementation, you can look at that AI driven segmentation we spoke of, and you can allocate the strategic resources for it and give highest value segments, investment which is precisely calibrated for each segment's projected lifetime value and growth trajectory, and resonant brand positioning by giving segment specific value propositions that authentically address both practical needs and emotional drivers, because it has to be a balanced approach to spark a decision. So, when you create an audience centric strategy, it will have to be first what the audience discovers and get meaningful audience segments through in-depth research, analysis and assessment, get the value of who of these audiences you want to prioritize, then strategically plan distinctive positioning frameworks for each, and then implemented your targeted campaigns across optimal channels, and as you go along you measure and optimize for success. So, when you are doing all this, STP remains foundational. You evolve your segments from cohorts and move towards tribes. You address both influencers and decision makers to get the optimal decision making going, and you foster emotional connections for a long lasting loyalty. So, with that we come to an end of this particular module, and we will take this target audience definition and crafting the communication messaging aspect further in our next piece. I will see you next time.
Hello and welcome to this piece of literary snippet. Perhaps the most popular literary genre after novel is the short story. Sharp, compact narratives whose charm lies not only in what is said, but also in what remains unsaid. Today I will be reading one of the shortest instances of a short story that I have ever encountered, and indeed the very charm of this particular story that I am going to read out today lies in the way it abruptly ends. It is an ancient tale from Mesopotamia which has been retold by several authors, among whom the name of Somerset Maugham stands out. The adaptation that I will be reading out is perhaps the closest to the one that Maugham wrote. The story is titled, in all of its adaptations almost, as Appointment in Samara. Here is the story. A merchant in Baghdad once sent one of his servants to the market. The servant was supposed to buy, but when he returned, he came back empty. Indeed, the servant had all gone. Trembling with fear, he told his master that death in the marketplace. Entered the market, the servant said to his master, by a woman, and when I turned to look at her, I am very scared, master, because death looked at me with a threatening gesture. Can you please lend me your horse so that I can fly away from Baghdad to the town of Samara. The master, being a good man, his best horse and saw him to escape death. Went to the marketplace and confronted death. "Why did you make a threatening gesture?" asked the master to death. It was not a threatening gesture. It was a start of surprise. To see your servant here today. I have an appointment with him in. See you in the next episode of Literary Snippet.